Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Pacific Kickoff Pickems. This will be my last video before the kickoff pretty much ends. Like I might throw another video in there like late January or something like that, but that would be probably it. And then it'll be mainly just like pre-Bangkok stuff after that. We'll see. Um, but yeah, very excited for the VCT season to start. EMEA starts tomorrow as I'm recording this, I believe. So, yeah, just very, very excited for the VCT season to finally get underway. And I think this specific bracket is honestly one of the more interesting ones out of any region. So, if you guys enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, really helps me out. Also, go check out my Twitter, where I'll try to be live tweeting as many of the games as I possibly can. It would mainly be the Americas games if I end up doing it. Maybe a little bit of Pacific, depending on what time I'm awake, because I'll be out in California during a lot of kickoff pretty much until like the 27th. So we'll have to see. I'll definitely try to live tweet a lot more after that, but we'll see. Um, Other than that, uh, go check out. I have a second channel link in the description as well. I'm going to be trying to post on there a little bit more as of late, also doing a little bit of a rebrand to that channel. So if you're interested in that, you can go check that out. And yeah, let's get right into it. So we'll try to spend a little bit more time on these first four games just because these are matchups that will actually be happening and it's not later in the bracket based on what I end up predicting. So Boom versus T1, I think most people will be picking T1. Like I'd say over 90% of people would probably pick T1. And I'm going to agree with that. I just think this is I no. I was watching Plat Chat recently. They were talking about how this is the closest thing we've had to a Korean super team, which just isn't true. Like DRX was a Korean super team. Genji wasn't because at the time of like building the team, it wasn't like, oh my god, this is a sick like textures, one of the best duelists in the world, the best Korean one. You got some other players that are like that on the team. No. T1, it's the closest we've had since DRX. You have Buzz, who's probably top two Korean duelist. You have Stax, who is probably the best Korean flash initiator outside of Munchkin, maybe. It'll be like right there, like right next to each other. He's one of the better IGLs. It's really weird with Korea because it's like you have Munchkin, you have Stax, who are both IGLs, and then it's like Mako, who's done a little bit of it, Freeing, who's done a little bit of it, and then some other guys that I don't know a ton about, just mainly in like tier two. But then you have like Izu and Sylvan, who are not super team caliber players. Meteor is at this point, but I think you have to have at least 4 out of 5, similar to Fnatic uh, at the inception of their roster, where it was like Durka, Leo, Chronicle, and Alfier, all elite players at the time of that roster. And then you have Boaster, who is an elite IGL, but maybe not the best individual player. Well, not maybe, definitely not the best individual player. So I like T1 a lot. I also think Boom could be okay, but I do think it is maybe a little bit overstated how good they'll be. Like I think they might be able to get a win or two throughout the year, but that would be probably it. I do like some of the pieces here, like DOS9 and Famous, but overall, like the team wasn't good enough to win Pacific Ascension. I don't think they're going to be good enough to do too much within Tier 1 Pacific. Then next up, you have Global Secret. I think this game is pretty interesting. I think a lot of people are very excited about what Global Esports could show in this game. And I do kind of agree with that to an extent. There's a lot of good young talent on this roster. Like I really, really like Crystal, and then I think you got three guys in Patriku, Udotan, and Poppy who I think have looked pretty good from what I've seen from them. Obviously, Patriku won't be able to play in this match. That does take a pretty big hit onto Global for me, kind of prepping, having a lot less prep time with Darion in the roster, who I do think is quite a significant downgrade from Patrick, who, even if I've seen people say that Udotan's going to play Duelist, Darion's going to play Sentinel, even if that's the case, I really don't see a world where Global kind of beat that gatekeeper team of Team Secret, who like anybody below that like playoffs line generally in Pacific, they will beat. I mean, maybe not pretty consistently. Like this team, especially last year in terms of Secret, was a little bit more like wishy-washy every week. Like they would get upset here and there, but they would get an upset against another team. So I don't know. I think they should win this game against Global. They did have a really bad kickoff last year, so that is also something that maybe you could think about with Team Secret, that they could lose this game. I would probably have picked Global had they been playing with their full roster, but because it's Darion instead of Patrick, who I think is a big part of this roster to me, I really just I don't really see it. At least this time. Maybe if they match up later in the season, I will pick Global again, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see with that. Then DFM RRQ. If you've been following me at all this offseason, you know what I'm going to pick here. If you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm going to pick here. I tweeted out, like, probably the day after the bundles came out, the classic that I bought. I bought the DFM bundle because this roster is very fun. Now, do I think it's going to be the best roster in Pacific, or do I think it's going to be like a super consistent team that's going to be really great all year? No. I think May is incredible. Like, genuinely one of the best players in Pacific. Biggest reason why I believe in this team. Then they bring in this duo of Korean players, of Jinbong, who I think is an amazing Sentinel player, was amazing in Tier 2, was amazing in the offseason. He had a little bit of a shakier start, but kind of settled in towards the end of the offseason and was insane. Then Akame, who has some of the best mechanics of any like flash initiator in Pacific. I think he's incredible. You have Art, who I think is an okay IGL. I think he's probably the one of the pieces that I'm a little bit lower on for this team. And then Yen, who I also am not huge on. From what we've seen in the offseason, it has not looked great with Yen. The raw mechanics do look to be there, but I think the rest of his game is kind of a little bit worse. But I do think the big three of Mei, Akame, and Jinbong will get them through this game against RRQ. I actually do like a lot of the pieces on RRQ as well. Jemkin, I was really high on when he came into Tier 1. I was a little bit disappointed after last year. Estrella, I think, is a solid IGL. I think Zephyro is one of the players just in the entire world that I'm higher on. I think he's really good in that Sentinel role on defense. But I like Cushy. I've liked in the offseason, but it was just a couple games that I've watched, so I'm not sure. I'm not fully there with him. I need to see it in Tier 1 games first on the stage. Monyet, I think, is incredible. He was the last guy I'll get to here. He's the guy that I have no doubts about will be good. But I do worry about if this team is going to kind of troll with the roles, put Jemkin on like some flex stuff, Monyet on some duelists. I said Monier, I said Monyet. I don't know which one it is. I think it's Monier. Um, but overall, like this team could be really good, RRQ. But after like two whole a whole year last year and two stages specifically that I fully believed in them, after signing Meunier as well, I'm kind of out right now. I'm trending out, but I do still believe that it is there with this team that they could be really good. I just believe in DFM a little bit more. Then our last opening game here, Zeta versus Nongshim. I think a lot of people are going to pick Nongshim in this game. I am one of those people. I was really, really high on them coming into Ascension. I really liked what I saw from Danby and Persia. Persia is already probably one of the better smokes players in Pacific, just with how well he played last year. Like, he was genuinely incredible. They didn't lose a single match. They haven't lost a single match since adding Persia to the team. So maybe they'll continue that streak against Zeta here, but I do think Zeta does have some potential to be a decent team. And I also think Nongshim is getting kind of overrated here. Like, I'm coming off of like just watching Plat Chat for this. TMV had them making Bangkok. I think they had them like top 5 in their power rankings, which I think is kind of insane. I do think this team is really good and could be really good. I think they are definitely more similar to the G2s of last year than the other two Ascension teams, but I'm not exactly sure how this team is going to fit together. Or maybe not fit together, how they're going to fit in this new meta of less Neon, probably for Danby. He'll probably play a little bit worse. He'll like get dropped down the rankings, maybe a spot or two in terms of duelists. And overall, like, yeah, they dominated in tier 2, but it's how well you're going to play, like how well they match up against teams in tier 1. I do think the rest of this roster is pretty solid, but I'm not like fully confident that they're going to win this game against Zeta because you have players like Depp. You have players like XDLL and Sciota, who I think are very good. I think Sugar Zero is also solid. Um, CLZ, I didn't know was IGLing, which makes me a little bit less confident in Zeta because I don't really know, like, I just don't know what the IGLing situation is on this team. I thought it was going to be XDLL heading into the offseason because he was the IGL on his tier 2 teams, as far as I knew. And CLZ, as far as I knew, wasn't. But both mechanically good players. I do think that they will kind of figure out something good there with Zeta. I just am not 100% sure, and I don't think it's going to be in this game necessarily against Nokshin. So now on to the rest of the bracket where we can kind of speed run through some of these matchups. I think there's some really good matchups in this round too. If it goes like this, you have Paper X T1. Very old matchup in Pacific. Like these two teams have matched up a lot in the past. Talon, Team Secret, again, two teams that have matched up a lot in the past. You have Gen G, who was one of the best teams of last year, kind of revamped, looking a little bit different. You have DFM, who have been one of the worst teams historically, kind of getting revamped and look a lot better. DRX, completely new form, fully like still a fully Korean team, obviously, but look very different in terms of the DRXs you've seen in the past. And then Nongshim, who are kind of the new guys on the block. So also a Korean team. So very interesting here. We'll start with Paper X T1. I think probably the top two teams for most people in their power rankings. Paper X kind of playing some more normal comps. T1 coming in with a pretty new roster. I do think T1 will get the better of Paper X here, kind of live up to the hype a little bit more. I mean, I think in this game they will get the better of Paper X, and we'll see later if they match up again. Then Talon, Team Secret. I'm just going to take Talon. I think they've pretty historically, I guess it was just in the... No, they've played like 3 times last year, right? They played in playoffs, Talon won. They played, let's see, in the regular season, Talon won. God, they got cooked there. I get knockout stage against Paper X. I forgot about that. Then they played in Kickoff twice, where Talon won the first time, but Secret kind of fixed stuff the second time. So historically, Talon has gotten the better of Secret. It was like 3-1, right, in series. I am going to take Talon anyways, just because I think this team does have quite a bit of potential, and they'll be able to watch Secret's VOD ahead of this game and kind of get a little bit more prepped. Then Gen G, DFM. I am going to go Gen G. I'm not that much of a believer in DFM. I do think this duelist matchup will be really, really fun. Texture versus May. A lot of this comes down to if Foxy9 absolutely shits the bed, and if Charon isn't quite as good as what he was in like the beginning half of the season, because, or maybe not half, like Champs Charon was quite a bit worse than the rest of the season. If he continues that form, and Foxy9 doesn't hit, and Yeoman is kind of having a rough game mechanically, I do think DFM has a shot to win this. I would just favor Gen G because of the core that's already here with Texture, Charon, and Munchkin. Then DRX, Nongshim. DRX always comes out hitting in these tournaments, or in any tournament pretty much. They very rarely lose their first game. I'm going to take them to do it again. to win this first game again. Um, and yeah, I just believe in them a little bit more than Nongshim. I just like if Nongshim, if I was a believer in them just like everyone else really was, maybe I would have them winning this game. But I think DRX should be pretty solid here. Obviously, the roster doesn't look the same as it normally would. It does look worse, but I believe in the coaching staff to at least get this team to a solid point and be able to win the first game here. Then we'll continue the upper bracket here. I'm going to go T1 over Talon. Pretty self-explanatory. I just think they're the better roster overall. Gen G over DRX. I think DRX will come out swinging a little bit against Nongshim, but maybe not look as great for the rest of the tournament. I do think Gen G should have their number here. Then moving on to the lowers, I believe in Nongshim more than I do Boom. Rematch of that final in Pacific Ascension, which should be really fun, even though it's only a BO3. But I do think that's actually a really fun matchup. I didn't even notice that when I was doing the Pickems before this. Then I'm going to go DFM over Global, kind of for the reasons I said before. Darion, I don't believe in him as a player overall. And I don't believe in this team kind of playing with like a month of practice and a sub. Then Team Secret, RRQ. This is a tough one. I'm gonna skip over this for a second. I'm just gonna pick Paper X over Zeta. I think everybody expects that. But Team Secret RRQ is an interesting matchup. Kind of another battle of mid, kind of like this Talon Team Secret game has been. Just teams that are generally towards that like 4 to 6 range, maybe 4 to 7 range in Pacific at any given moment. I'm going to take Team Secret just because I believe in their floor a little bit more, and it does kind of feel a little weird having them go out in just, I mean, I guess 3 games it would be. And they just lost. RRQ's going to have more time to prep for this. I mean, either way, these teams are losing to Paper X, so if you're mad about me picking against the other team here, then sucks to suck. I'm going to change my pick to RRQ, actually. Then I'll go Paper X, obviously. Then Nongshim DFM is pretty interesting. I'm going to take DFM, but I do think if you take Nongshim, you're not crazy. I would actually take either team here to kind of upset Talon in the next round. I'm pretty sure I had DFM higher in my power rankings than Talon to begin the year. I can look real quick. Power rankings. Kickoff. I did have Talon over DFM, and I had Talon over Nongshim as well. But I am going to take DFM over Nongshim and DFM over Talon here. I would take Nongshim over Talon as well to kind of upset them in this lower bracket game. I'm going to take Paper X versus DRX. Paper X have generally had their number, I believe, over the course of, I mean, especially last year. I guess, wait, no, they did beat Paper X once, I thought, right? Let's see. Yeah, they beat them in that lower bracket game. Paper X beat them in the regular season, or like, yeah, they beat them in the regular season and in Stage 1 playoffs. Last year, let's see, or in 2023, sorry. Paper X did beat them in that final. They also beat them at Tokyo. Yeah. So I would say that DRX generally have performed a little bit worse against Paper X in those games. Then I'll take Paper X over DFM. That'll be where DFM's kind of miracle run comes to the end, but I do think that it would be a very successful run for DFM after winning 1 game or like 2 games in 2 years, I believe, as an org. So kind of a success for them there. Then T1 Gen G in the upper final here. I'm going to take T1 to continue their run with this kind of, again, as I've said, stacked roster. I do believe in Gen G quite a bit. I do think they can win this game, but I don't know if they'll quite be able to get over that hump, especially when I don't fully believe in Foxy 9, especially in these high-pressure upper final games to make Bangkok. And I also think that'll kind of be a thorn in their side in this lower final against Paper X, and then I'll have Paper X winning the final. So we will zoom out a little bit. That's not going to yeah, we'll show it like this, I guess. Yeah, I'll have Paper X T1 in the final, Paper X winning, and then those two teams making it to Bangkok. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, everything like that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Probably after kickoff. We'll have to see with that. So, yeah. Peace.